Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pembroke School Committee meeting Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. Again, this meeting is being recorded. If you have any questions, you can send them to scinfo@pembrokek12.org. The superintendent will be following the box, but if you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any public comment from our public comment? No, there we go. Acknowledge your scheduled visitors. Thank you for coming. How's that? Is that pretty good? Adjustments to the agenda.
There is one adjustment to the agenda. Under my report, we're going to talk a little bit about a MSSAA waiver for cheerleading. So cheerleading is not an MIA sport, but they do require a waiver for women by 8th graders. So I forgot to include that. But
Okay, we can fix that, not a problem. Communications. Any?
I had just one.
Yep.
So the state put out a draft graduation requirement document on the 1st. I made a post about it, so you can go and take a look. It has some initial information about what they're looking for graduation requirements. Again, it's a draft, not something that's final. But if you need the link, it's on my Facebook page, or you could just Google it. I'm sure you can find it pretty quickly.
You know, so I did see the paper today, and it looked like to me there was more questions than answers.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like
trying to read it, and I found the article very confusing to follow.
yeah, it's about, I think it was like over 100 pages. So it's a dense document, and it's
Great.
a draft. So you should only look at it if you're really interested.
Yep. And the highlights are that you all just approved our competency determination policy, and when this draft is done, we'll make changes to that policy.
Yeah.
So.
Yay. Approval of bill schedule?
It hasn't gone out yet.
They haven't gone out yet,
Yep.
okay, good. Okay, I'll take a motion for consideration of approval, school committee meeting minutes of November 18th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Allison, second from Katrina D. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Natalie, it's 5-0, in honor of my friend Patrick. Superintendent's report.
Perfect. The first thing under my report is our fiscal year 27 maintenance of effort budget presentation. There's just a handful of slides. I'll talk a little bit about kind of where we're at in the process, some of the assumptions that we're making, and a little bit more about the timeline in which things will become a little more clear. So at the request of Allison, I did update the pictures on the cover slide because the children that were on there before graduated from Pembroke High School 6 years ago. So these are children that still mostly go here, but I can't guarantee they all still go here. So we'll talk just a little bit about where we're projecting 2027 to go. Again, the assumptions that I'm making in that, and there are a lot of assumptions given the fact that it's only December 2nd, and then timeline and next steps for the budget. So our fiscal year 26 budget is $40,457,050. Fiscal year 27 maintenance of effort, so doing everything that we're doing this year at next year's prices would be $41,280,729. So that's a difference of $823,679. You can see below there's some historical increases over prior fiscal years. We are in good shape to where we have been in the past. I do want to remind folks that we would be $457,000 of a greater difference if we did not get that supplemental funding at town meeting. So it would be more in the $1.2, $1.3 million range of a difference, but we did secure that funding at the fall town meeting. That was a combination of some revenue associated with new growth as well as the increase in Chapter 70. Here's the fun part. So there are a whole host of assumptions in our fiscal year 27 budget. As you've heard us talk about pretty much at each meeting since January, we are currently still negotiating the 4 successor contracts for our units with the Pembroke Teachers Association. So there is an assumption in our fiscal year 27 budget for those bargaining agreements, as well as a reminder that our fiscal year 26 budget is still not certified because we are still using just an assumption on those bargaining agreements. So there's like an assumption of an assumption in fiscal year 27. I am optimistic that when we meet again on next Monday, December 8th, that we will be finalizing our financial packages and we'll be able to come back to you with a more concrete number. But again, at this point, there is a placeholder in there. Special education tuition does really ebb and flow pretty significantly over fiscal years. We are projecting about a $212,000 increase. So the Operational Services Division, which is the division of the state that sets the tuition rates, is projecting a 3.04% rate increase. That rate increase won't be finalized until the first Wednesday in February. I built the budget off the 3.04, but that could go up or, a little up or down depending upon where that lands. Transportation increase, so next year would be the first year of our 2-year options on our first student contract. So for those of you not familiar with our bus contract, it's a 3-year contract with 2 option years exclusively at our will. We have bid transportation pretty regularly in the past. First Student is the only bus company that has ever bid on the transportation here in Pembroke, mostly because they have a lot here in Pembroke, so it's pretty convenient for them. But we don't use that as a reason not to bid. So the last round, you'll remember that we had 2 option years we could exercise with First Student, and we chose not to because of the numbers they were quoting us. We did go out to bid. Though they were the lone bidder, their percentage came in 3% lower than what they had originally quoted us. So we are still looking at potentially going out to bid this spring. This is the transportation contract increases based off a 4-year rolling average for First Student, but it could go up or down depending upon what we decide to do with that. Each year we try to do special education pre-buy. So special education tuition is the one thing that municipal finance allows you to prepay. So you're able to use fiscal 26 dollars to pay for fiscal year 27 tuitions. We have been fortunate enough to do that for the past 6 years here. We would like to continue to keep that going moving forward. There are still a few spots in our special education current budget. There are placeholders for students that are still in an evaluation process or still looking for a placement or changes in placement. So that number itself is not finalized yet, but will finalize probably over the next month or 2. Students usually find their home by the end of February or so. And then circuit breaker. So Pembroke is one of the few districts left in the Commonwealth that uses their circuit breaker reimbursement 1 year after they receive it. Most districts are using them as the payment comes in quarterly. So next year for fiscal year 27, we will use the funds that we brought in this year. So that's a little over $2 million. That's based off the 75% reimbursement for instructional expenses and 61.36% for transportation. For those not familiar with circuit breaker, when circuit breaker was first rolled out, the intention was to reimburse at 100% over the foundation threshold. So any cost over the threshold is set at what the average collaborative tuition is for the state. Originally, the plan was to reimburse at 100%. We've never seen 100% reimbursement, but we have seen as low as 35 and 36%. So 75% is a healthy number. Transportation is a new piece to circuit breaker. 3 years ago, they started reimbursing for transportation. It started at 50% and has gone up a little bit each year. So as long as that keeps moving in the correct direction, that is great.
Does that cover special ed transportation also?
So that's anything that we spend to transport a student to an out-of-district placement.
Okay.
We can submit for reimbursement over a certain threshold. Special education tuition is one of those line items that seems to be a significant dollar amount. So just showing folks kind of where we've been in the past. I know Jess has presented over the past couple of years that our out-of-district numbers have stabilized and even come down a little bit. So you can see that reflected in our tuitions there. So again, for fiscal year 26, it's a budget number based off of some placeholders that still have not come to fruition yet, but we are projecting this year to be just over 3.5% below where we were last year, and next year coming down another 4%. So as that finalizes, that maintenance of effort budget will come down as well. So lots of assumptions. Chapter 70, our first look at Chapter 70 usually comes the third Wednesday in January. So we are looking forward to that. Over the next couple of weeks and months, we'll work together with the Select Board's Budget Subcommittee and have a joint meeting. We'll work together administratively and with department heads to put together those presentations that you all enjoy so frequently, that we come and give you our kind of pie in the sky wish list and then tell you that we can't afford anything, but it's nice to have goals. So we'll start to do all of that work as the calendar shifts over to 2026. That is it. Again, it's early. We used to do this presentation in the end of January, and we have pushed it back a little bit in order to kind of get information out there earlier. But again, it is mostly built off of assumptions.
I had one question. Thank you so much for that presentation. I feel like there was a lot of historical information that was helpful to have. One quick question was about the SPED tuition increase. What has that been historically? Like, is it usually around?
So it had hovered anywhere from like 2 to 4%, but 2 years ago it went up 14%.
Okay.
So there was a lot of feedback from municipalities with that sharp increase 2 years ago. So I do believe that they'll come in close to that 3.04, and there was some relief that was given to districts for that huge increase.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so usually around 2 to 4%,
Yeah.
but sometimes it can spike.
Yes, it shouldn't spike, but
I know that was I think it was a miscalculation on the state's part. So, yeah.
it was interesting.
Allison, any questions?
Will this go on the website soon?
Tomorrow, yep. We'll start a FY27 budget tab, and this will be the first thing in it.
Sue?
Nope, I'm good.
Katrina? No, we're good. The only thing I would say to the viewing audience, people always talk about transparency and all that stuff. Here it is.
Yeah.
We're putting
This
it
is
out
where we're
there.
starting.
This is where we get, people say, you didn't tell us this. Yes, we're telling you this now, and it's, December. It's, the beginning of the process, but I've heard people say, we didn't know about this. I'm going to say respectfully, you're probably not paying attention. You don't figure out the house is on fire until it's actually on fire. So, but, okay, next up.
So I'm going to do the waiver first before we turn it over to
Sure.
school improvement plans. So winter cheerleading at Pembroke High School, I think, has a mighty four students. You need 8 for a squad. I'm learning all of these things. It's nice for Brian when Brian talks about it with me, how many cheerleaders I need and what kind of pom-poms. So we need 8. We are hoping to get approval to file a waiver with MSAA. So the Massachusetts School Administrator Association really governs club-like sports. Cheerleading falls under that rather than an MIAA sport. We'd like to invite some 8th graders to participate. Youth cheer in Pembroke is very strong. They have a good feeder program. I think once students get to the high school, there's so many more choices, and that's why the numbers fall off a bit. Mostly, more so for winter cheerleading as opposed to fall, because fall has the competition piece and the football sideline cheer. Winter is a little bit slower. It's more basketball, and it's a lighter season. So hopefully there's a handful of 8th grade girls that would be interested. I think they've already been kind of practicing together. They often practice together with some of the youth groups. So
Can we do this in the form of a motion?
yes, I need consideration for approval for an MSAA waiver for cheerleading.
All right. Do I have a first or a second?
I'll make a motion for a waiver for the, what is it?
MSAA.
MSAA waiver
For cheerleading?
for cheerleading.
Second.
Okay, I've got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Anyone an abstention? No? We're good. 5-0. Thank you.
Next up is school improvement plans. So each of the building principals will kind of walk you through some of the highlights of their school improvement plan. I'll just remind you that you are just acknowledging the plans. The school committee does not approve the plans, as they are a document that is really driven by the school councils at each of the buildings. So whoever wants to be first. Actually, why don't you go first?
Sure, I'd love to. So the school improvement plans focus on 5 areas. So I'll go through each of the 5 areas for Hubbamock and just highlight a few things from each of the areas that we are looking at with our school council this year. So for achievement, 2 of the bigger highlights for achievement, we're piloting 2 new programs at the elementary level. We are piloting simplified writing and FOSS science in many classrooms at the elementary level, and so part of our school improvement plan is to continue to roll that out over this school year and use our professional development time and PLC time at the elementary level to continue to focus on the work done with those 2 programs. For social emotional learning, one of the highlights here that we developed at school council and with our student ambassadors is our new Student of the Week program. So recognizing a student from each homeroom and looking at the core value of the month and recognizing them through an incentive an incentive program that they are announced weekly on Friday. They recognize whatever that core value is, and like I said, it's 1 student per homeroom. They get to come down, they get a certificate, picture taken, and it goes out in our weekly blast. The students seem to really enjoy that. There's no actual prize for it, which is also nice. So it's more of that intrinsic motivation that we're striving to have all students kind of develop over the course of the elementary years. Also for social emotional learning, we are continuing with unified sports this year. So our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders are currently enrolled in an after-school club that's partially Best Buddies, partially Unified Sport, so they're doing a hybrid of both. Later in the year, we'll be partnering up again with the middle school for some of the 5th and 6th graders to engage in some of the activities, the sport activities with some of the other middle schools in the Commonwealth. So we're looking at cornhole again, we're looking at basketball, so we'll be doing a variety of activities. We also have a field trip planned in a couple weeks where they're going to go bowling and do some arcade games and things like that. So continuing to strengthen that program at the elementary and middle school level. For technology, we are continuing with a lot of our technology interfaces that we're using at the district level, but at the elementary level, really looking at some of our digital subscriptions and kind of weighing their benefit versus the overuse of some of them and finding that healthy balance between kids in front of screens, but also the benefits that they have for some of our assessment guides. So for example, M-Class, iReady, and Dibbles are more of a teacher-driven interface that we're using to collect data and look at instructional groups, but then also looking at some of the digital subscriptions around Lexia and iReady, things that the students are actually involved with and how much usage they're getting out of it. Making sure that we're not just buying things to buy it and they're actually being used with fidelity if that's where the district wants to go. And then facilities and learning environment, we capped off our playground project at the beginning of beginning of November, end of October. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony, so that was one of our strategies, one of our steps for our facilities and learning environment. And then continuing to just build maintenance, using our building maintenance request system to really track and monitor the turnaround time for maintenance requests, rather than just word of mouth and email, really using the facilities interface to kind of get people to log maintenance requests and then having custodians respond in that manner. It's just providing more organization for keeping track of things that need repair or service in the building versus, calling a custodian or sending an email. Things sometimes get lost in the shuffle and then people are feeling frustrated that things aren't addressed in a timely manner. So making sure that we're using the interface system that we have available to us. And then finally, for communication, just continuing to streamline communication amongst all the stakeholder groups in the building, whether it be PTO, parent community, staff, administration, really just using the systems that we have in place, such as Seesaw, Google Classroom, and making sure that it's accessible for all families, even those that don't have technology readily available on devices or phones and things like that. So making sure that it's accessible for all in the building. And that is it.
Questions, anyone?
No. Did a great job. Sounds awesome.
Ashley, you got off easy, see?
I took all their ideas.
You sure did. Well, I have Bryanville next on the top of my list. Would you like to go, Jen? Sorry, I'm just going in order as they show up.
Let's see. You did steal a lot.
I know.
So our school council for achievement, last year we had sort of split it into two, one on K to 2 and one 3 to 5, so that we could pick like which metric of day we would focus on. And the teachers on school council decided that they would like to keep that this year and keep the metric. So we're still looking at Dibbles, K to 2, and we're looking at iReady. Am I supposed to hear myself that good?
Yes.
Yes.
You get used to it. Yeah.
Okay. But if I can't hear myself that good, does that mean I'm too quiet? See? Okay. Fun feature. Okay. Is that better?
Oh,
There I am. Okay. We especially wanted to stay with Dibbles because Allison, as you'd mentioned, in the spring, we're really at that part where we're like with those kids that have been doing Dibbles over time. So we'll be able to not only just look at their growth this year, but we can start looking at over time. And then our biggest focus with achievement that we started talking a lot about grade level last year, and we've done a lot of work already this year, is to connect to what Ashley was saying about the technology programs, like really making sure the students are using it appropriately. Like there's recommended usage times, there's recommended lessons to be completed, and if kids are just going on to go on. And, it's saying they were on 50 minutes, but they've completed 2 questions. That's not utilizing it. So we've come up with ideas on like how to share strategies and ideas on how to ensure they're utilizing the programs correctly. So like 2nd graders now come and get positive office referrals when they hit a certain amount of lessons. 5th grade, that one class just went outside because they earned extra recess as a class hitting a certain amount of lessons. So really trying to like make sure we're maximizing what we have. Social emotional, it's a lot of the same work. One of the things that we talked about utilizing an upcoming staff meeting is, and I think I saw this in yours too, again, Ashley, but really kind of thinking about the language we're using with kids. I know when I was teaching here, we did social thinking, so I'm so used to expected, unexpected, and I say those words all the time. But I really started thinking one day, like we have a lot of new teachers. Does this kid even know what that means when I'm saying that to him? Have the teachers utilized that with him? So I think it was a district focus to use social thinking language, zones of regulation language. We have 2nd step. People are feeling there's no real common language with 2nd step. So like really just kind of looking at it to focus on what language are we using? What language do we think we all should definitely be using so that no matter where the kids are in the building, they're hearing and getting that same language throughout. So that's one of our big focuses there. Communication, we are going to jump on the communication survey that North did 2 years ago and Hub did last year. We haven't done that yet. So we're going to send that out. I'm actually hoping to have it available for conferences tomorrow and then put it in the Blast Friday just to really see that same information of are we communicating in an effective manner? Sometimes it seems like we're blasting a lot of things and Carol Grindle's the only one liking or responding, which we appreciate, Carol, for sticking around in our Bryantville community. But there's a lot more people in our Bryantville community. Katrina, I see you sometimes too.
I try to go there sometimes.
But is it the most effective? Like, are people on Facebook? Are they more Instagram people now? Like, are we actually putting our resources out to make sure the families know what's happening? So we're just curious to get information on that. And then to bring in volunteers, especially with our library. We want to make sure that we're firming that up like Hub and North have. Technology, we're really just same thing, trying to look at the programs, make sure we're utilizing it, and make sure we're hitting all our benchmarks within the other gold areas that connect to technology. Facilities, we got our gym roof. It was magical. There's not going to be a leak tomorrow. There's not, even with this rain. But there are a few other areas where they might, so we're still looking and checking. And then our bigger focus was doors. Like we all of a sudden had a whole lot of doors, interior, exterior, that were like just not shutting all the way, or like the latchy thing wasn't connecting. So really just to make sure, especially the exterior, and then some of the like LGI doors and the art doors, there's a gym door, just making sure that those are all like securely opening and shutting the way they're supposed to, because it just ultimately comes to safety.
Yeah.
Seems silly, but like if you have a lockdown and you're in the LGI, you want to make sure the door functions.
Definitely.
So, of course. Did I miss anything? Good. I had to print them at home.
Questions, anyone?
I didn't staple it.
No, just a comment to say, I love, you thinking about the language use and having that be uniform. It's obvious, like, when you have a group of teachers and then it's been a few years and nobody had that training, so it's smart to be looking at that. And I think it will help a lot with student interactions, so it's great.
Mr. Murphy, I guess you get to go next.
I've been waiting.
No.
So, obviously, a lot of what Ashley and Jen have already kind of talked about are really applicable to North as well. I'm going to deviate just from that just a little bit, just to kind of talk a little bit more about underachievement, the early education part of it. So that's one benefit we have here at North Pembroke is housed in the preschool program. And we've had a lot of great discussions during common planning meetings with the teachers and the staff, as well as the paraprofessionals. I actually got a lot of great information out of them. I've been having separate meetings with them just to kind of get in tune with where they're at, as far as their day-to-day job responsibilities. And one thing that we're continually finding is that I don't believe that parents, when they send their kids to preschool, have a total understanding of what we kind of expect those skills that they're coming in with already. So we've done some work around potentially thinking about holding some sort of a boot camp, if you will, in the springtime, and maybe aligning that with the screening process. And notifying parents, these would be great things for kids to come in with. Can I zip my coat? Can I, blow my nose? Things like that. And those are physical types of things, but there's also some pre-academic skills that they can learn as well. And we're kind of focusing on those, and I think what our vision is right now, and this is not my idea, this is a collective idea, is about really kind of maybe having not just that list of skills that they're coming in with, but also like a to-go bag. Here's some games that you can do on your trip down to the Cape this summer. And even if you have 20% of the families utilizing it, it's going to kind of build some momentum, I think. And I think it's something that we need to do, because I think we're always looking at those MCAS scores and grades 3 and above. But I think if we kind of scale down to the preschool level to kind of get those kids more ready, and also a little parent education is kind of where we're at. So that was a big explanation for achievement, but I think that's our major focus right now. As far as social emotional learning, we are looking at, I think I liked what Ashley had said about those tangible rewards and not really kind of where it's at, more of the intrinsic rewards. And I think, we want to catch kids being good. And we want to do those positive phone calls home. So we're about to start rolling out, that Caught Being Kind kind of a program, because kids really respond to it. I was walking down the hallway today, and a kid saw me behind him, and he saw some paper towels on the floor. He made sure he picked up every one of those. I'll be calling that parent tomorrow to let them know that that's something I recognize, even though he may have seen me, it's okay. Things like that, because I think when you kind of, bring that out and you make that available to kids, and, you kind of caught being good, I think it goes a long way. The other thing that we're talking about with social emotional programming or social emotional learning is about really getting feedback from teachers in real time. So we're designating right now part of our staff meetings to really kind of go over something I'm calling problems of practice. I think other people use that too, but I'm using it for this. And I'm collecting all of the feedback on a Google form after discussions are held at grade levels. And I'm giving that back to them with some solutions that I can think of, but also looking for some solutions from the teachers. So it's something that, I think people can get frustrated with their day-to-day work with kids, but I think, validating that, something is wrong, but how we kind of go to fix it, it goes a long way as well. So that's the social emotional. Under restorative practices, we are looking more at developing targeted support plans for those kids most at risk right now. We really increased our student support team and how we're operating that this year. It used to be just myself and our assistant principal, Val, and our school social worker and school psychologist, along with our school nurse. Right now, what I'm finding is we're bringing in more often our behaviorists for the district to kind of problem solve student issues in real time. And a lot of times what we're finding too is grabbing that teacher from the classroom. Can you spend about 10 to 15 minutes with us right now in this think tank, because we want to make sure we get it right. So it's that kind of, communication that needs to happen on a more regular basis. So we're really excited about that. And then I think, as far as our mental health staff, leading more small groups on friendships and conflict resolution and things like that, I think we're all struggling with that right now, and I think that goes a long way as well. As far as community involvement and communication, we're almost done here. I think, the use of the volunteers has gone a long way, even right here in this room right now. We're in our second year of not necessarily having a formal library session, but all the kids come in and they are able to check out books. And it's funny who you get for volunteers. It's not just the moms, it's sometimes the grandparents, and sometimes it's the mom of your reading specialist. and they come in and they're doing all that work as well, which is really kind of neat to see. And those people show up every single time we call them. So, and the kids really enjoy coming as well. So I'm really happy to have them on board as well. And then I think one thing I'd like to do more towards the new year is kind of reinvigorating our student ambassador program. It was a club last year. It kind of fell by the wayside because we had new clubs kind of coming on. So we're looking to do something more internally during the school day, more club-like for that student ambassadors and really taking ownership over the school day. And then just the last thing about facilities, I know you guys got the playground, you guys got the roof, but we got some stuff too. And thank you to the school committee for the funding of the light project. We're about 2/3 of the way through right now. I do envision that probably by end of January, beginning of February, it will be complete. It's been really nice to see because the classrooms are so lit up. But we also got some plumbing done over the summer as well. So I know I talked to you at my beginning of the year remarks about having our water bubblers installed. So we have now 7 working water fountains, which are all filtrated as well. So I think the one thing we're trying to do right now is, I think similar to the other 2 schools, is really get ahead of some of those bigger issues that are happening in the buildings. I'm now doing quarterly walkthroughs of the building just for myself to get a glance on, ooh, that could really be addressed, and maybe put that on the summer list. Because I think that if you don't do that, you tend to get lost in some of the work sometimes. So I'm just putting it on my calendar as well. So those are my big takeaways. Any questions?
Yeah. Well,
No questions.
very impressive to 3 elementary schools. Donna, the pressure's on.
Okay, here we go. All right, I wanted to start kind of on the cover page of mine, just to talk about student representatives. So I have this year 45 students in my student leadership, and a lot of 7th graders come in, and some of them were in the ambassador program. And when I talked to, and my 8th grade representatives had come up from 7th grade up into 8th grade, because I want to give them 2 years of experience and understanding how this process works, and as well as like public schools and the nesting that happens. So I used my 8th graders, and they talked about their experience in this, and I talked about like what this was to be on the school council. And out of probably 27 graders, I think 19 volunteered to be like put into a container full out, which I just thought was like really remarkable, right? Because this was probably like 5 weeks ago. So anyway, our 2 7th grade, James and Doucette, and Nathan Skobalov, and then Isla Drake and McKenna Reichel are continuing with us, so I'm excited to have them here and to learn the process. We need engaged people in our public schools to continue to keep us strong as a town. And the middle school improvement plan functioned a little differently than the elementary, and that a lot of it comes down to like departments. So it's broken down a little bit differently. And so I'm just gonna like kind of do like popcorn a little bit, okay? I'm happy to talk about anything because there's a lot here. So my cap is that my career and academic plan, we're continuing that. That is at least monthly lessons on college and career options to help kids see their future and understand the importance of what we're doing in school now and how that builds. So that's kind of been an ongoing. The guidance one here under achievement, we used to do individual, when I say we, I mean the guidance counselors, used to do individual progress report check-in at progress report time. So one-on-one, it would be pretty quick that they go through it. What the guidance counselors has found is that doing it in whole groups holds everyone accountable in a bigger way, and also reinforces the message that we all have things that we're really good at. We all have things we need to learn from, whether we're a really strong student or a student that struggles. So the guidance counselors do this in whole group, have them do some goal setting, and then pass it back out again to the students at the end of the report card term, about 4 times a year. I think it really helps kids get to know themselves better as learners, which I think is a really important function of middle school. Sometimes I think middle school is like being on a bicycle with training wheels, right? It's kind of like high school, but it isn't. And the training wheels come off, and you're in credit bearing at the high school level. Stakes go up a lot. So it's important that we kind of support kids to really understand themselves as learners at the middle school level. I'm going to pop over to social emotional. I'm going to start with guidance again because that's the one so we're trying to build students' executive functioning skills, which is what we're finding always, but more so since COVID, that students' executive functioning skills, there's some real gaps there. And what the guidance counselors are finding with the students is the students have found getting backpack cleanups to be like incredibly helpful. And I know for myself, when I've got a lot to do and I'm trying to procrastinate, if there's anything out of place in my house, you know, it's harder for me to focus, right? So I think when kids have an organized backpack, their brain feels more organized. So now they've been doing, and it's amazing how many papers middle schools collect. But also helping them determine, like, what is something you need to save and what's something you don't need to save. So kind of working with them on that, as well as some of the underlying skills, is some of the things they're working on. Unified sports, Ashley talked about that. We do have a field trip coming up. So we're hoping, I'm kind of selling it at lunch. I don't know how your numbers are going, but I'm hoping to rev up some support for that. Student leadership, I really want to talk about kind of service learning, being a servant leader, and thinking more about what we do to give back to the community. The students want to do disability awareness training again this year with younger students. And we just had a school dance, and the profits from that went to student leadership. And we're going to use that to do like a bag lunch program at Father Bill. So it took me a while to find an opportunity. I wanted to take the kids to like a homeless shelter or something, but you have to be 16 or 18. So Father Bill's offers a program like in-house. So I'm working with my cafeteria manager and my school nurse, who all want to be involved in doing this. So we're going to be booking that and using the profits from that to buy food. Technology, a lot of just using the program, similar to finding out the balance between using technology and also doing one-on-one. So I went through probably about 6 weeks ago and did like I went to each classroom, like how many are on the computer, how many's not on the computer, and it was really interesting to watch that like over 50% of the classes that I tested were not on the computer at that moment. I did like, it's interesting, right? Because I think we do use it, there's a good use of it, but I do think there is a balance in most of our schools with also doing paper-based assignments, which I think is important. And communications, just working on that. I think that the challenge with communication is I think we communicate a lot, but the other challenge is I think that parents are just inundated with so many things to do and how to sort through that. So trying to figure out how we make sure that's a little more targeted to give them kind of the right information, kind of maybe at the top, and less, you know, tons of information that maybe isn't as helpful. And facilities, so I wanted to add in, although it's not, I don't think it's in here. I got a PA system, so that's been awesome. That works. And it actually is tied to our student information, to our spell system. So like an early release date automatically resets itself. It used to be like, oh my God, get the bells. And we have a new weight room at the middle school, which is earlier in the, and that's been really great with our strength and conditioning elective. We have a weight room which feels a little more like community high school, so that's been really nice. Questions from me?
Treatment of the weight room, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You ready, Mr. Talbot?
I am. Good evening, everybody. The high school improvement plan has the same 5 categories as obviously the buildings, the district goals, and so our job is to help you meet your goals. For our achievement goals, we have 2 of them, and they are driven by our NEASC accreditation visit from 1 year ago, almost to the day. We certainly had some recommendations there. That report was, I thought, very positive, but there were some recommendations for improvement. They're called priority areas, and in that report from last year, they essentially required us to develop a school improvement plan around those 2 priority areas. So if you're looking at the plan, Achievement Goal 1 and Achievement Goal 2, you'll see parenthetically at the end of the goal, I'm telling you where it's coming from, right? It's directly quoted from the NEAS report. And in order for us to, get thumbs up at the 3-year progress report, which had to write for NEAS in about 2 years, they want to see significant improvement here. In fact, I have a report due to NEAS in February. That's the first kind of benchmark they set for me, and they want an update on what we've done with these 2 goals. And so that first goal, if you read it, is kind of a mouthful, right? It talks about a comprehensive approach to active learning strategies, diversifying assessment methods, opportunities for revisions of work, structured time for collaboration, student agency, differentiated instruction. There's an awful lot there in one sentence. And I feel as though some of the stuff that we're already doing kind of really captures that. And I think that NEAS message certainly does, but we need more of it. And I'm talking about our Project Lead the Way courses and that curriculum. It really is kind of that goal to me is speaking to the applied learning concepts. And so just to refresh your memory, we talked about this last spring as well at the end of the school year. Our vision of our graduate and the 4 pillars of the vision of graduate align remarkably well with the 5 tenets of applied learning. Okay, they almost mirror one another, and that was done completely coincidentally. We did not do that for any other reason than these are the things that we felt that we do every day when we created our vision of the graduate. When exploring the applied learning tenets, we realized the similarities. And so what we have in that first goal there is a group of teachers who, as part of their choice for professional development, they are committed to working together as a small group. It's a small but mighty group that I'm calling early adopters, where they're meeting during their professional development time. They are sharing lesson plans with one another. There's 5 of them. And then they're looking at the applied learning tenets to see what's missing in this lesson plan. What could you do, almost like the +1 this lesson plan. And the goal then is to have that group towards the end of the school year present to the faculty some of their findings in those collaborative opportunities, trying to encourage other faculty members to join in next year. So you can anticipate this goal being on the school improvement plan next year as well. It is a 2-year goal. It has to be a 2-year goal. It's so broad.
Yeah.
But I am really proud of the work that they've done. They're putting themselves out there, right? They're taking risks. They're taking their lesson plans and putting it out there for their peers to see, and then they're accepting that critique, that feedback. And that's how you get better. So we've got the rest of the year to go for sure. And I'm encouraged with the work that they're doing, okay? So stay tuned for that. We will not complete that goal by this year, I'll be clear on that, okay?
It's a
going to
huge
take another
goal.
year to get other people to join on board, right? But the Project Lead the Way curriculum is really, is tremendous. It's complete, it's got all those facets of student authenticity, student agency. They're doing the work, not the teachers, right? There's collaborative opportunities, revision and perseverance and learning from your failures and trying again. These are all the things that we want to have all of our courses across the spectrum doing in the very near future. So I think it's a challenging goal, but I think it's one worth pursuing for sure. Okay. The second goal is also right from NEASC as well. I know that those who've been in this business a long time know that we're always looking for professional, collaborative time for our teaching staff during the school day. I've been hearing that for the 33 years I've been in education. It's a problem that seems to never get solved. Okay, but we have to really take a hard look at that. If you notice the timeline for that goal, I intentionally set that for the middle of the year. It says late fall, early winter, because, as Erin mentioned, we're in the middle of the negotiation cycle with the teachers, and common planning time for high school teachers has been part of those conversations. So there certainly is an opportunity that this goal gets satisfied through the negotiation process, but it certainly may not. And so we have to then determine, like, okay, now what? Now what? There are other schools that do it. There are other models out there that have a structured time and a process. And so I already have staff members who are willing to serve on that committee when I convene it. I would imagine it would require some road trips to local schools to see what they're doing and kind of observe their model. But I'm looking forward to the opportunity to finally kind of provide this to the high school staff. I believe we're the only building that doesn't have it during the contractual time, I think. Maybe, I think. Our staff does do it without any question after school, before school, during their common prep period. But they'll say more formal, more structured for them. So again, another kind of high aiming goal, but one that's very, very important. The social emotional wellness goals really come from the teacher's voice. Mary Beth had told the teachers last year about their preferences for professional development. What do they need to develop themselves? And I think one of the common responses was they need some support, supporting students, or particularly with the social emotional learning challenges, executive functioning challenges. So a healthy population of high school staff, and I think other buildings as well, are committed to working with Alexis Reed. She is an educational consultant that the district has contracted with, specializing in social emotional learning and coaching and executive functioning. A healthy number of our staff is going to get some support there. That, of course, the goal then would be for them to bring it right back into their classroom. Our technology goal, it's a singular goal, but if you look at the number of bullets there, it's a huge goal. I work directly with Mike Tinker on this, and those are the five kind of areas that he's looking to improve upon: technology across the district, device and lifecycle management, infrastructure and connectivity, data security and policy and governments, and you guys will certainly be involved in that as we develop policies around cell phones, AI, and then of course increased staffing and support. So Mike has shared with me that many of those goals have already been completed. The devices and lifecycle management goal, for instance, is already done, but yet the infrastructure and connectivity part at the high school, specifically transitioning our Wi-Fi access from an on-site server to the cloud. The other schools have done that. Ours will happen next month. That's going to happen. So we're really excited about all those things. I think honestly, the most basic fundamental goal there was to provide charging stations for student devices in the classroom. Just never thought of it, but he has provided in each classroom with 5 or 6 Chromebook charges, so kids can no longer say, my Chromebook died, can I go to the side of the room in a corner with an outlet, and the teachers just say it's minimize the interruptions to learning significantly. Something as simple as just taking extra Chromebook charges that we've had over the years and put in each room. So
That's smart.
So Mike's making a lot of progress with that technology goal. The communication goals are also simple. I think Donna's point is a good one. I feel as though we communicate a lot, but sometimes is it too much and hard for parents to kind of sift through all of that. One of the things I've heard from parents over the years is I wish that there was a way for them to view our daily announcements. So we send home weekly email blasts that has kind of the more overarching happenings in our school, but the day-to-day mundane things, this class meeting on that day, or a deadline for this is on this day, the stuff put on our daily announcements, they don't see that. I would include that in my email blast. So we now have done that. Our daily announcements are now linked. It's a video we play every day. It's not like in text. It's a video that's recorded by Pembroke High School students, and our teachers show it in their classrooms. So that video is now on the homepage of Power School for any parent or any student for that matter to click on at any time. If the student's absent, or if a teacher was given a test that period and couldn't show the announcements, the student can get it anywhere, and so can the parents. So they now have a better understanding of what's happening on the day-to-day level. I also feel as though the second communication goal is really important. We had for a number of years a faculty council that met monthly. There was a representative of that council from each department who would meet monthly to talk about just building-based issues with each other, not things that are like contractual, right? Not the contract where, you violate my rights or things of that nature. It's just the day-to-day stuff, like the paper towels keep running out. How do we have a system to get that replaced quicker? Things of that nature. That went away at the high school anyways. I think after COVID, we just stopped doing it. I'm not quite sure why. And then I think last year I found myself meeting with the building reps, the association reps, for everything, right? For far too many things that really didn't necessarily need the union to get resolved. So I asked the faculty, my own personal communication goal was to bring that back. And so we've had 2 meetings so far, because the first, we didn't get it convened until November, so they met in November, and then we just met today as a group today. So some good things are happening there. Just to give you an example, the topic of discussion today was these online deadlines that we have now, because you can submit work through Google, right? When I was teaching, if a paper was due on December 2nd, the kid passed it in when the period met, right? That's when now we have the ability to collect that work electronically, and is the midnight deadline, is there an advantage there that I'm not seeing that overweighs the perception it's creating, right? That was my message to the staff, right? Why does something have to be due at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night versus when they walk in the door on Monday morning, right? So we had a good discussion there with those teachers about that. They made some very good points. Some of them I think are pretty profound. I think that we've agreed that maybe the weekend stuff, the Saturday night at 10 o'clock stuff, maybe not so much, right? I've not given a directive. I've not required anything out of them yet, because they then take that back to the departments and talk to their teachers there, and that's how that news kind of filters throughout the staff. And then we'll come back next month and kind of talk about that. All right, but for the parents that are listening, I am hearing your concerns about a deadline at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. All right, I will say though that it's an assignment that's 5 weeks old, and they say to you it's due 5 weeks from now at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. You don't have to do it at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Right.
And I understand all that, but it's the perception parents have, right, outweighing the value of a 10 o'clock deadline on a Saturday. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're trying to figure out. That's kind of the purpose of that council. So one of the communication goal, we're bringing that back. And then finally, facilities. I think like other schools have mentioned, we too have roof challenges, but thanks to Erin and her support and the custodial staff, we identified those leaks. We have repaired what we can repair. Dan Serfino's our day custodian is doing a great job. He gets up on that roof. He finds out where the roof drains are, and is the seal kind of eroded there? Can I reseal this on my own? And what he can fix, he's fixing, and what we can't, we've hired. So that's been very helpful. The custodial crew itself, the night crew has opted to, facility goals number 2, to utilize a team cleaning approach. Okay, there are 3 second shift custodians at the high school. They each had a section they were responsible for. They worked in silos. This is my area, that's your area, that's your area. We don't see each other throughout the entire night. And this year they're doing it in a team. They're moving to the building together in a group of 3. And what they're reporting to me is it's a much more efficient use of their time. They're getting through the building much more quickly. And then when they have time left, because they are getting through it quickly, they go back to their old areas and get the things they don't get every single day, right? The tops of the door frames, right? Dust those, or windowsills, cleaning desktops, stuff like that. So they're saying they have much more time to do that. So we're about 3 months into it. They're happy with it. I'm happy with it. And we're going to keep going with that and see what happens throughout the course of the year. And that's it. Those are the goals of the high school improvement plan.
Awesome.
Comments, anyone?
I love that you've revived the faculty council. I think that will just, get issues resolved faster. And also love to hear about the small group that's working on that first goal for from NEASC. I think that is fantastic. Yeah, and I know like you said, it can be vulnerable to put your lesson plans out there, but to be able to workshop that in a group and find a way to make improvements will be awesome for the whole staff eventually.
Yeah, I think that whole premise, the applied learning tenets certainly work well with certain disciplines, right? So the STEM field, for instance. It's the humanities teachers perhaps that are a bit hesitant, and as a former English teacher I understand that entirely, and I'm happy to say that there's a reading specialist in that group, and so she is she's learning an awful lot about these tenets that she heretofore not really thought about incorporating in classes. So I'm looking forward to her kind of maybe connecting with more humanities teachers to kind of get them on board as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's a previous English teacher. Did you just say heretofore?
I did.
Oh.
It's a wonderful word. It's a wonderful coordinating adverb. Yeah.
Just wondering when I'm going to use that.
talking to a kid yesterday who submitted a dismissal note, and it had a misplaced modifier in the note.
Oh, good.
So we had to talk about that in the morning, about misplaced modifiers, and it could cause problems. So anytime you want to talk about this stuff.
My next email to you, I'm going to try to use it, and let's see if I use it right.
I just
So he
wanna-
wanted to be dismissed for an appointment at 9 o'clock, but he wrote, I want to be dismissed, for an appointment at 9 o'clock. He had to leave at 9. The appointment was at 10. So he messed that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, at 9 o'clock was the modifier that was placed.
As I said.
I have to leave at 9 o'clock
He
for
would
an
have been late
appointment.
for his appointment if I let him pass that note, is the point. You know what I mean? So-
It's a tier 2-4. Yeah. Got it.
I will ask a question mark, though. In my entire career at 64 years of age, I've never had to diagram a sentence. And I probably spent years of my life with people drawing lines of where this line went, where that line went. I said,
There's
even when I
still
was a
time,
little-
David,
I
there's
said,
still
even when I was a
time.
little kid, I used to say, when am I ever going to use that? And at 64,
I would imagine you diagram sentences all the time. You don't know it, you just don't know it.
I'm having
definitely had to do
flashbacks.
that.
You guys probably don't even diagram
I was
sentences
bad
anymore.
at it.
Heaven knows. Are there any other comments, folks?
Did you go?
So I just had a couple of questions. First of all, thank you all for everything that you talked about. You're obviously doing a ton of work, so appreciate all of that. I was just wondering, like, your 2 achievement goals are like, you're doing a ton of work. I mean, these teachers are, is there anything that we need to support you with financially? Like, do you have everything you need to get all of these lofty goals?
Uh-oh.
Well, now.
You are.
I'm just one time here, Sue. It is
I just
not
want to
that
know, like,
time
what
of
we should
year.
be focusing on.
Thank you, Sue.
That question. So
That'll
when it
come
comes
back
time
in
to
your budget
collaborative
presentation.
time and common playing time, I may come back to you for the request
Yeah,
for that.
well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, it's a lot, you're doing a lot. And then I was also wondering, how are you going to measure whether or not these are successful?
That's a great question. So that's why it's a nice 2-year goal, to
Yeah.
give it a little time. When we present our findings to the faculty in the spring and try to get some more adopters in, that'll be one kind of a benchmark for me. So Jonathan Shapiro, who is our STEM coordinator, and I will be certainly in those classrooms, kind of watching and seeing what they're learning and what changes they're making to their own instruction and lesson planning. And then hopefully we'll have a larger group next year, and we can continue that process with them, and get in classrooms and support the teachers and ask them what you asked me, what can I give you? And then just monitor the results and watch closely.
Yeah.
There's a rubric that we created, Jonathan created, it's a single pronoun. I did not create that, Jonathan Shapiro created it, that blends our vision of our graduates with the applied learning tenets.
Oh, okay, that's
It's a wonderful document. In fact, the first iteration of that was a bit more involved, a bit more complex. We met once as a group, and we kind of simplified it a little bit. And so we'll use that rubric as we're observing classes to see, if we're meeting all of these standards.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
Katrina? Joe, I want to put you on the spot. Any questions? This is your chance to question all the people that you had to smile at for the last 11 or 12 years.
I mean, no, it all sounds great to me. I like the improvements you're making, especially with the communications, because I feel like it's important. You can't always trust, especially the underclassmen with the morning announcement stuff, like it's due by this date, get it done. And even though it plays every day and in the cafeteria, like it's important to send it in to the parents. And I also liked the no Saturday 10 p.m. I haven't had a lot of experience with that, but it definitely is helpful, like be able to hand something in. I know Miss Ruka, my English teacher, we have to turn things in like before the bell rings for her class, so we can work on it in study tight in time that morning, so we don't have to submit it at 11:59. So.
Yeah, in the good old days when you were passing stuff in, if I had study hall first period, I could, and I had something to do second period, I could kind of work on that. But I do see the point. One teacher said to me today, I don't mean to belabor this point, but she said I make the assignments due at 7:30 in the morning. Right now they can submit it at 8. Doesn't really matter. Don't daily homework. But she likes to see it, so she can then use that as a tool to adjust her lesson that day. She wants to know before they come in their class, do students have this material mastered so that I can go on to the next step in the lesson, or do I have to pause and kind of reteach? So that's why she does that. There's value to that. That's what we're talking about, the value. Is the value overriding the perceptions creating in the community? And in that case, I think it does. And then I'm happy to explain to parents, it's a deadline that's multiple days in advance, it's not, it's not what you're thinking, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like that could depend on the class too, because for AP and honors classes, I feel like maybe that could be expected, like you're gonna get your work done, so you might not need to check, but for some of the CP classes, like being able to have that checkpoint would be important.
Sure, yeah.
That's a good point, too. And I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in for that whole issue, because I've gone through 4 kids going through these deadlines at midnight or 11:59. When you have kids that are in AP and honors courses, and they're doing a sport or some sort of a after-school activity, often they'll want, like, I know my son used to stay up until, like, midnight to do, like, he'd come home from the sport, do his thing. Sometimes he'd have to work a little, and then he'd have to stay up till midnight. If he had a study hall in the morning, or even just like sleeping in and then getting up with a fresh brain, getting up early and just doing it in the morning would work better for him.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that food for thought.
Yeah, I feel like there's something to be said for having it due like at 7 a.m. the morning of. I feel like midnight is a silly thing, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
teacher is looking at midnight to see who handed it in or didn't hand it in.
Right. Well,
I
sometimes-
mean, maybe there is somebody, I'm
And
sure
I'll
there
be fair
is.
to
but-
teachers, sometimes
yeah.
Google will set that 11:59
It's an automatic,
as a
right?
default
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
It does.
And again, I'm not talking about a daily homework assignment where something
No.
is assigned on a Wednesday and this is due at 8 o'clock tonight. That's not what I'm talking
No,
about,
it's
these
the longer
longer term
term.
projects where what the teachers say is, well, instead of making it due at 2:20 that day, I'm giving them an extra 10 hours. They've already had 2 weeks, so now it's due at midnight tonight. Go home tonight. I could take it right now at 2:20, or I'll give you tonight too, one more time, but at midnight. That's the Google default. So it's just say, look, at midnight, it's going to default anyways, so that's what they're doing. And I get that, but
But
again, my
I think
point
that
is,
Google
the
is
perception's
confusing, right?
created.
Because then you get like an email at 12:01 that says due tomorrow. And it's like, is it due today or is it tomorrow? Like,
Exactly.
What is
That's
the
my
date?
point. The perception's creating, is the benefit outweighing that, right? So that's the question for them to answer, but I want to hear the answer too from them.
Right.
But I get that feedback, Joe, totally. I hear your point too. As a parent, I hear that.
One thought I had was, I know sometimes there can be an assignment that was assigned, maybe you started it in class and then it got put on Google Classroom, so parents can't always see like when it was originally assigned. So potentially putting like the date it was assigned on 11/10 as a way for them to see like they've had 3 weeks to do this, and if it's due at this time, just a thought.
Or sometimes it was a class assignment due that day.
Right.
And they didn't finish for whatever reason. And our teachers, because they're so flexible and so kind, they say, okay,
Yeah.
it's due, it was due now, but I'll
Right.
give you till tonight, but I want it by whatever, 10 o'clock. or
I didn't
whatever.
really even
That
think of it
happens a
that
lot
way.
too.
And
That
I
happens
was
a lot.
thinking of it as
Yep.
like it's
The
due
next day,
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good call.
Happens a lot.
Maybe indicating that it's in class work, it could be.
Sure.
Like writing it for the parents to see, because they won't know.
Yeah.
It's all the perception.
Yeah.
For sure.
One thought I had, just jumping off what you mentioned about the announcements, was when we were talking about kind of communication overall. I was wondering, I think I was thinking about the morning announcements that you had. Like, I wonder if doing a video where you give some of the things that you might say in the newsletter, like if parents can kind of just like put it on as a way, because like I listen to podcasts all the time, right? Or I'm driving in the car and whatever. So you could even have a student read it, like a 6th grade student or what have you. But just an idea as a way to present it in a different way. I don't know, just borrowing your idea.
You can do that in camp.
Yeah. Bryantville podcast, just kidding.
Right. Anyone else? We're good? Okay, subcommittee updates. Budget sub.
So Budget Sub met last week to go over maintenance of effort, and we talked about setting up a joint meeting with the select board in the next, I think, week or so is what we had talked about. So that will be forthcoming, and then we'll try to meet more regularly now that we are officially in the budget process.
Okay. Policy sub.
In your packet, you have for second reading and approval those two explication of the obvious policies and procedures that we talked about the last time about annual program evaluation. Nothing has changed. There's no samples out there just yet. We had our site visit on Monday. Yesterday. So,
All right, so I need to take votes on both, correct?
yep.
Okay, I will take a motion for policy ACB, equal access and annual evaluation of K-12 programming.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I got a motion, I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 5-0, Natalie. On B, take a motion on policy ACB, sorry, is that an R?
Dash R, yeah.
Dash R, thank you. Equal access and annual evaluation of K-12 programming procedures. If I get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a first, I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 5-0. Thank you. Negotiations.
Yep, as I mentioned earlier, negotiation subcommittee met on Friday, November 21st. We are meeting again on Monday, December 8th. We are at the point where we are exchanging financial packages, hopefully coming to some compromise and resolution. I hope to be bringing you something for ratification at your next December meeting.
Questions, comments? Okay. And last but not least, strategic planning.
Strategic plan is plugging along. Our 4th of 6 meetings is next Wednesday, December 10th. At our last meeting, we did kind of look at the themes that came through in all of the focus groups, all of the surveys, and started to put together really what the kind of big rocks, or so they call them, would look like for the strategic plan. We will refine that work next week, as well as vote one final time on our vision and mission. And then start really developing our core values and some action steps. So the plan is targeted to be to you all in January, and we are right on track for that.
Did we at some point have, we were going to have like a midway something?
Yeah, so after we have the work next Wednesday, there'll be a working document draft that we can share with the committee.
Cool. Sounds good. Will that also be shared with administrators, or is it more
Yeah, so
us?
it is so great to work in a committee of 27 people.
I can imagine.
I think 2 weeks ago we spent almost an hour and a half wordsmithing a sentence, and it is really great to have the input from different stakeholder groups, but not all of it finds itself in language that makes sense in day-to-day practice. So I would anticipate that the draft would go through administration to kind of tweak it so it makes sense for what we do here day in and day out, and then move it forward.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Okay, future meeting dates and topics. We're December 16th, January 13th, and January 20th.
Correct.
Everybody still good with those dates? Perfect. Okay.
One thing for topics, I know at some point we're talking about having our, the student rep do a report out if we want to. I'm not sure how often we should do that, or wanted to give Joe the opportunity to report out on things, but make sure he has time to prepare if there's anything he wants to talk about.
Do you want to do that on 16th, Joe?
Sure, what is it?
December 16th.
Basically just talking about anything that you feel like you've been hearing. You can also talk with one of us or even Mr. Talbot to think about what are issues that you're hearing, or what are things you've been seeing or hearing from other students that are great, just to get a sense of the student experience and any feedback you might have.
Okay, yeah.
It's not anything strict or. Yeah.
Did you meet
Yes.
with the
Yep.
kids, whatever?
Yes.
You want to do it? Can we get an update on you guys? Kind of an update? Did you have any?
Do you want to update that meeting? I said one of the young ladies came and couldn't stay that long. She had to be somewhere.
Yeah.
There was actually 3 of us, 4 counting myself. I think we discussed a little bit of what the contract negotiation stuff, what that meant. We discussed, I remember the South Shore Voc Tech.
Yeah.
We discussed a little bit respectfully the political climate of the town. Help me out, Joe, after that, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, that was about it. We talked a lot about the contract and how that's going, and we compared that to Whitman-Hanson too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the other topic,
And what was
sorry.
going on there.
Yeah, one of the questions was basically how does something like that happen? And of course, you don't want to open a can of worms there, but
Oh, interesting.
They don't have Erin.
I tried to handle that as gingerly, I think, as I could.
All right, awesome.
But
To that end, we have had some great luck in our pools with Whitman-Hanson educators that were displaced as part of those layoffs. So having that budget freeze lifted and having those posting and pools open, we've been able to successfully grab some really great candidates.
Oh,
So
that's great.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we're going to go to executive session. First and foremost, thank you, everyone, but we are going to enter executive session pursuant to Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy related to collective bargaining. An open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the legal position of the school committee as declared by the chair. Could I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second, and by roll call, Katrina D.
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
Katrina S.
Yes.
And me, yes.